All right. Okay. So since I am in CLF, I think that the quality of the internet it fluctuates. So please do not um, turn your cameras on, which I see is not the case. So that's okay now. Okay, because it fluctuates really. So if you lose me, you don't have to keep saying, hello, where's teacher? She got cut off. It's obvious that I did get cut off. So you just wait for me to go back on. Okay. And if you get cut off, then you just wait for the recording. All right. Okay. So uh, we are going to have this is sadly our last lecture because we were not able to discuss the Allied victory already, where we will just go through it briefly because it's just something that I cannot accommodate anymore. Uh, my schedule really became very bad, particularly because of Odette, no? So I was not able to catch up anymore. Anyway, suffice to say, we already know this because we discussed some of it during Philippine history that the Allies won. Okay, instead of the Axis powers, they were not granted victory. They were defeated by the Allies, especially when America joined the picture. It was when the tables really turned. Okay, so we are going to discuss one of the most horrific events of of World War II, which is the Holocaust. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard of this term already, and I'm sure that you have heard that, and you make jokes a lot actually about Hitler and the Jews. But hopefully, after this lecture, you will learn two things. Number one, admiring Hitler is not really something that you should do. Maybe you can acknowledge that he had a very good way of communicating with people. Maybe you can acknowledge that he had a very good plan with the Blitzkrieg and his support for scientists, but to admire, okay, the word there is admire, to admire Hitler or to treat him. I know some kids these days treat Hitler as someone misunderstood, that, he was just accused of so many wrongdoings that were not as bad as they seem. I can even see people turning Hitler into a pop icon, okay? Like they have shirts with Hitler dressed in funny clothes. It's really not a joke because Hitler was probably one of the most evil people that ever walked the earth, and he is the reason for the murder of so many lives. Millions. It's not just a few thousands, it's not just a few hundreds of thousands, it's really millions of people. And all that blood is on Hitler's hands. So hopefully that is one thing that you will learn, that this is not something that you should joke about. Like uh, this is not a funny thing. Hitler and his hatred and his murder of the Jews. So I hope that you will treat that topic a little more seriously, okay? Because it is really not a joke. And another thing that I want you to learn is this is how we should view our history, because Germany right now does not deny this. Germany does not deny that this happened. They acknowledge the evil that Hitler did, that the Germans did, and they really try to make up for it. Okay, they do not try to hide it. They do not deny it. They do not say, no, no, it wasn't as bad as it seems. They don't do that, and I really like how they regard their history. Even if it's a very dark history, they acknowledge it and they do not deny it. In fact, you will see some of the concentration camps, pictures of the concentration camps later. Those camps have not been demolished. They really kept it open so that the Germans will really remember. And then it's a requirement for German children to go have a field trip to the concentration camp, so that they will see, this is what our grandparents parents did, because it's still grandparents or great grandparents. This is what our great grandparents did. Never do this again. Never do it again. um, Learn from this evil and try to be humble about it. So they really teach their history like that. And I hope it will always be the case in the Philippines, no? Na even the evil that some Filipinos did will not just be brushed away. Okay ra to eh. It's not as bad, but it should be acknowledged. And you should learn from it. And that's a very important lesson that we will learn from the Holocaust. Okay, now, as part of the German vision for Europe, the Nazis proposed a new racial order. Okay? They proclaimed that the Germanic people, and they called the Germanic people the Aryans. You remember the Aryans from the history of India? The from the history of India, they were the light, the fair skinned people that went to India, and then they removed the Dravidians and they killed a lot of the Dravidians. So anyway, they named themselves the Aryans, or the superior white race. Again, we are talking about racism, no? We just finished our lecture on the Civil War, although it was overplayed, I believe. But the issue of racism, and for me, what was worse, segregation, how the white people pushed people of color to the side, especially the original settlers of America. Grabe yun ni ang racism. This is really not a trend. This is not a joke. It is real. Okay? Now, the Germans proclaimed themselves as the Aryans, or the master race. It is really a misuse of the term. The term referred to the Indo-Europeans, who I think were also racist, because what right did they have to push the Dravidians away and take away their technology and all of that? The Nazis claimed that all Aryan people, particularly Jewish people, were inferior. So this is what racism is. When somebody say, "Hala, I saw a black guy in Ayala," that's not racism, because that's true. Okay? He really has a black skin. But to label race as inferior just because of their race, that is racism. Nga murag, ew, I'm not gonna talk to that guy because he is Indian, or he is Filipino, or he is Chinese. I don't like the Chinese. That is racism. Okay? I don't like Arabs. I don't like, that is racism. Okay? I don't like Koreans. That is racism. You are labeling a people as a race and you consider them lower than you. That is racism. Okay, so this is also a good time to analyze. Are you a racist? Because racism is not saying kana nga mura, hala, I saw a black guy. How is that racism? You're not judging him according to color. You're observing something. But when you say, I don't like black people, I don't like Koreans, I don't like Arabs, mona na, that is racism, okay? And the Germans were this way. They were like, Jews, they are inferior to us. This racist message would eventually lead to the event called the Holocaust, a systematic mass slaughter. Okay, so that is what the Holocaust is. A systematic, meaning it did not happen at one time, but it happened systematically. A systematic mass slaughter of Jews and other groups judged inferior by the Nazis. Okay? So that is what the Holocaust means. The Holocaust begins. So we will start with how it's so horrible to talk about these things. So the Holocaust begins. We start with the Nuremberg laws. To gain support for his racist ideas, Hitler knowingly tapped into a hatred for Jews that had deep roots in European history. So this is not the first time that a European expressed hatred for the Jews. This is something that Europeans have in their hearts already. For generations, many Germans, along with other Europeans, had targeted Jews as the cause of their failures. Some Germans even blamed Jews for their country's defeat in World War I. It's like I we lost because of the Jews. And they also blame the Jews for their economic problems after the war. I don't see what their justification is for that, but they just targeted the Jews as the reason for everything. Probably because of the curse that is attached to the Jews. You remember when the Jews, a bunch of Jewish people, wanted to crucify Christ, and then Pilate said, he's innocent. Why do you want to crucify him? He's innocent. And then the Jews screamed back at Pilate and said, his blood be on our hands and in the hands of our children and our children's children. So it's like they cursed themselves on that day. And a lot of people believe that when the Jews were around, they were a cursed people. So they blamed the Jews for everything, though that is not the only reason, but that's a large part of the reason. Okay? Now, in time, the Nazis made a targeting of Jews a government policy. The Nuremberg laws, passed in 1935, so this is after World War I, deprived Jews of their rights to German citizenships. So they were not allowed to become German citizens. And they forbade marriages between Jews and non Jews. You may not marry a Jew. That's it, okay? Laws passed later also limited the kinds of work that the Jews could do. Jews could not do this, Jews could not do that. That is very racist, okay? That is very limiting. If there is a Jewish criminal and he is sent to jail, that's not racist. But if you deprive someone of rights just because of their race, then that is racist. Okay? Now, worse was yet to come. In early November 1938, 17-year-old Herschel Grinspan, okay? I really, it's very, look at that. There's only one vowel in that name. Grinspan, a Jewish youth from Germany, was visiting an uncle in Paris. When Grinspan was there, he received a postcard. It said that after living in Germany for 27 years, his father had been deported to Poland. On November 7, wishing to avenge his deportation, Grinspan shot a German diplomat living in Paris. Okay, he went crazy. Grinspan went crazy and said, I am going to shoot the next German that I see. And that is exactly what he did. Okay, now, when the Nazis, so it was really, he had a very hot temper, Herschel. Okay, so that was really his fault. But that does that mean that if a Jew commits a crime, all Jews are like this? Can you safely assume that? Namorag, oh, there was a Jew that shot a German. See, I told you Jews were evil. Not at all. That's really racism. Okay, because there are German criminals too. Okay. When Nazi leaders heard the news, they launched a violent attack on the Jewish community. Grabe. Grabe no ang reaction sa German when they heard. One kid shot a German officer. And this is what they did as revenge. Okay, on November 9, Nazi stormtroopers, yes, that's what I said. That is what Hitler calls his private army, the stormtroopers. Okay, just like Star Wars. On November 9, Nazi stormtroopers attacked homes. Yes, it's like Order 66. Attacked Jewish homes, businesses, and synagogues across Germany and murdered close to 100 Jews. Because this guy lost his temper and shot a German officer, the stormtroopers destroyed so many of the Jewish community. And this night is known as the Kristallnacht, or the night of the broken glass. Okay? You will know why it's night of broken glass later. An American in Leipzig wrote, Jewish shop windows by the hundreds were systematically smashed. The main streets of the city were a positive litter of shattered plate glass. It is for this reason that the night of November 9 became known as Kristallnacht, or Night of Broken Glass. because they just destroyed all Jewish offices, businesses, churches, everything. They smashed it, they destroyed it, and they killed around 100 Jews. So, kuan, an overreaction. Okay, this is an account of a boy who witnessed, a 14-year-old boy who witnessed crystal meth. All the things for which my parents had worked for 18 years long were destroyed in less than 10 minutes. Piles of valuable glasses, expensive furniture, linens, in short, everything was destroyed. The Nazis left us yelling, "Don't try to leave this house. We'll soon be back again and take you to a concentration camp to be shot." So that is what we remembered from the Kristall Nacht. And this event on November 9 marked a major step up in the Nazi policy of Jewish persecution. The future for Jews in Germany looked truly grim. At first, Hitler favored emigration. Sige, panghawa mo sa Germany. Leave it. Leave our place. Go to other European countries. So Hitler favored emigration as a solution to what he called the Jewish problem. How racist he is. That's what he said. The Jewish problem. Getting other countries to continue receiving Germany's Jews became an issue, however. After admitting tens of thousands of Jewish refugees, such countries such as Britain and the United States abruptly closed their doors to further immigration. Why? Why do you think France, Britain, and the United States said, "No more? We cannot keep receiving Jews"? Tens of thousands na good. No more space, yes. What else? Overpopulation. And those are problems of a country. They might be targeted by Hitler, yes. That is why, this is why, and you already know this, who in the Philippines received Jews when all these other countries closed their doors? Quezon, yes. Quezon said, "Bahala na. We will take the risk. Luoy kaayo ang Jews. What if it were us in need at this time?" And so the Philippines continued to open their doors to the Jews. That is why we will always be visa free. We can go to Jerusalem anytime without a visa because Jerusalem said the Jews said, "We'll never forget what President Quezon did." And even after Yolanda, oh man, grabe ito ka emotional. After Yolanda, a large Jewish ship docked in the Philippines, and the head doctor gave a speech and said, this is part of our repayment for what your President Quezon did for our countrymen during the time of Hitler." And a lot of people actually were confused. They were like, "Who? What did Quezon do?" Ay, grabe. The Philippines is of the countries that has severe historical amnesia. Nobody knows. It's very very few people know about that. That's why, please, when you leave CLF, please carry the lessons that we had in history, because if you do not remember our history, that's a very sad thing. You don't know the value of things. So that is what happened, no? And then that is why up to now, Israel is still very grateful to the Philippines. Okay? Now, Germany's foreign minister observed, "We all want to get rid of our Jews. The difficulty is that no country wishes to receive them." So now, the Jews, nobody wants to receive them. Major countries don't want to receive them. So they're having a problem. So now Hitler said, "Okay, fine, then put them in ghettos." Ka-racist niya, eh? Why can't he just let them live among the people? He said, "Since we can't get rid of the Jews, let's put another plan in effect." He ordered Jews in all countries under his control to be moved to designated cities. In those cities, the Nazis herded the Jews into dismal, overcrowded ghettos or segregated Jewish areas. When I was in France, I actually visited a Jewish ghetto, but of course, it doesn't look like that anymore. The Jewish ghetto is a very nice place already because it was it was where all the good food was, because French food for me, it's not good. But if you go to the Jewish ghettos, they have very very good food there. But the ghettos did not begin that way. Okay. So in these ghettos, the Nazis sealed them. They sealed them in. Yes, they sealed them in the ghettos with barbed wires and stone walls, exactly like that. They were sealed in to keep them in. They hoped that the Jews inside, they hoped, the Germans hoped that inside these ghettos, the Jews would starve to death or die from disease. That is their hope. May tag mamatay na sila tanan, oy. Grabe, grabe good kaayo. Please, that's why do not joke about Hitler and his hatred and everything, okay? Even under these horrible conditions, the Jews hung on. They're resistant, some particularly formed resistance organizations within the ghetto. So some were rebels inside the ghettos. They also struggled to keep their traditions. Ghetto theaters produced plays and concerts. Teachers taught lessons in secret schools. Scholars kept scholars and historians kept the record so that one day people would find out the truth. So that is what they did in the ghetto. So Hitler said, ayay, na gid tay problema, no? We should have then a final solution to the Jewish problem. I've tried Nuremberg laws. I've tried letting them emigrate. I've tried ghettos. They keep thriving. You remember this is where Pharaoh's problem in Egypt? What was Pharaoh's big problem when the Jews were in Egypt? Diba? You remember this? Too many. And they seem to be multiplying. You know, they'd see Pharaoh. That's why Pharaoh turned them into slaves. So now it's like Hitler is the new Pharaoh. Weird. So Hitler said, now I will offer a final solution. Hitler soon grew impatient, waiting for Jews to die from starvation or disease. That jerk. He decided to take more direct action. His plan was called the final solution, and this final solution was a program of genocide. So this is really nagyo the peak of Hitler's racism, and that is genocide, a systematic killing of an entire people. Genocide is not just killing a group, it is killing it. The goal of genocide is to eliminate a race, to erase them. Hala, oy, ka weird, was that a joke? But it's supposed to be serious, okay? It is not grabe, it literally was to erase a race. Grabe si Hitler. Hitler believed that his plan of conquest depended, di ba, he wanted to conquer the world, and he said he believed that of that the victory of his plan to conquer the world depended on the purity of the German race. He wanted the German race to be pure, but the thing is, Hitler was not even of pure German blood. He may even have, some people even say Rizal might be his dad, but that's not true, of course. But to protect racial purity, the Nazis had to eliminate other races, nationalities, or groups they viewed as inferiors, and they called these inferior people subhumans. Kay Germans ra gyud ang correct. Kaning subhumans, we should eliminate them. Okay? This included gypsies. Okay, they included gypsies in the list. Polish people from Poland, Russians, homosexuals, the insane, the disabled, and the incurably ill. Okay, so these were all included. Now, the issue of what do you call this? Homosexuals. Now, the Bible says that homosexuality is a sin. But does that mean you have a right to kill them? Of course not. They deserve to be treated as human, just like everybody else. They deserve to be treated with respect because they are still made in the image of God. Even if you do not agree, or even if you call homosexuality sin, it does not mean you treat them disrespectfully. Do you understand? Because you sound like a racist, but it's not a race. Do you understand? Saying that homosexuality is a sin is not hate. That's actually love because you're telling them that it is a sin. But to treat them like they are no longer human, that is the one that is wrong. Okay? Okay, now, but the Nazis, diba, so I mentioned a couple of other races and a couple of other life choices like homosexuality, though insanity is not a life choice, but kana, but the Nazis focused on the Jews. They hated the Jews the most. Okay, so as Nazi troops swept across Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, the killings began. Units from the stormtroopers or the SS, Hitler's elite security force, moved from town to town to hunt down Jews. Wasn't your book thief? So it's book thief, no? Yeah, it was book thief, right? So at least you can appreciate the book more because this is what happened. Okay, so when these stormtroopers went from town to town, they hunted the Jews down. The SS and their collaborators rounded up men, women, children, and even babies. A baby for them that was Jewish didn't matter. Okay? And took them to isolated spots. They then shot their prisoners in pits. So they would dig a deep pit already, put every Jew that they would find, men, women, children, babies, and then they would open fire. Why would they put them in the pit daan? So that they can just cover it up and now it's a grave. It's really so horrible. It's so horrible for me to talk about these things, but you really have to learn this. This is how evil man can be. Jews in communities not reached by the killing squads were rounded up and taken to concentration camps or slave labor prisons. These camps were located mainly in Germany and Poland. Hitler hoped that the horrible conditions in the camps would speed the total elimination of the Jews. He's really like Pharaoh in Egypt. He's really like, sige, di ba Pharaoh said na, sige, make them make bricks but don't give them materials. And if they cannot produce bricks, like whip them para mga matay na sila tanan, so they will all die. But then, um, that's what Hitler did. He said, okay, make them labor. Don't feed them, but make them labor. So hopefully they will die on their own. Maybe at this point, Hitler still had a bit of conscience. No, a bit of conscience at this point before he became totally dark. The prisoners worked 7 days a week as slaves for the SS or for German businesses. Guards severely beat or killed their prisoners for not working fast enough, with meals of thin soup, a scrap of bread, and potato peelings. Most prisoners lost 50 pounds in their first month. Yes, potato peelings. Not even the potato lab, those were reserved for the Germans. Just the peelings of the potatoes and thin soup and a scrap of bread. They lost and then they had to do hard labor. So a lot of them lost around 50 pounds within the first few months. Hunger was so intense, recalled one survivor, that a bit of soup spilled over, the prisoners would dig their spoons into the mud and stuff the mess in their mouths. That's horrible. That is to drive a human to eat dirt like that. Mm. Hitler's war on the Jews turned toward a final solution in 1942. The Nazis built extermination camps. Before, it was just concentration camps. Now it was an extermination camp, equipped with huge gas chambers. And this is an actual gas chamber that has been preserved. Like I told you, the Germans do not erase their bad history. They look at it in the face so that they can learn from it. Now, the Nazis were not content with the concentration camps. They built extermination camps with huge gas chambers that could kill as many as 6,000 human beings in a day. Grabe, eh? How calloused is your conscience naman that you cannot even see how evil that is? But that is really what happened. One of the largest extermination camp, yes, 6,000. One of the largest extermination camps was the Auschwitz. Okay, it's still standing up to now. It's so horrible for me to see those railroad tracks because you just know that those railroad tracks carried Jews that were going to be slaughtered because this is an extermination camp. When prisoners arrived at the Auschwitz, the largest of the extermination camps, they paraded before a committee of SS doctors. And the leader of this doctors is Joseph Mengele. He was called the Angel of Death um, because he actually, so many people, when they first saw him, he was he looked like a very pleasant man. Like he did not look like a villain. I mean, if you look at his picture right there, he's not very like he doesn't look like a vampire or a monster. So when the Jews would see them, they would be like, oh, he seems like a nice guy, and he had a very pleasant personality. But actually, he was one of the most horrible people during the Holocaust because Joseph Mengele was actually the one who invented the gas for the gas chambers. And he was also the one who experimented. He was the one who told um, what experiments should be conducted on the Jews. Like his favorite subjects were Jewish twins because he wanted to figure out. It's an interesting question, okay, but the method is very obscure. Like it's very warped. He was very fascinated why twins. It's like the DNA is a carbon copy, ba? They were like, why is the DNA of one twin, especially in identical twins, why is it the same? Can we replicate DNA? Because if we can replicate DNA, we can create X-Men. Because X-Men, that's really, diba, I told you this already, they really wanted to create. So he would even pluck eyeballs. He would even pluck no, the monkey army was Stalin, not Hitler. He would even ask eyeballs to be plucked out of alive Jews so he can see how an eyeball would work while, like, a few seconds before it actually dies. Because if you dissect a dead eyeball, he cannot see na kuno all the. So they called him the angel of death. Okay. With a wave of Mengel's hand. Oh gosh, wait, I'm getting upset. I'm really getting upset. Good. I'm just trying not to be so upset, but I am. It's so upsetting. With a wave of Mengel's hand, he would separate the strong, mostly men, from the weak. So usually it's left, right. He would be like, left, right. The strong ones, he will separate, not because he wants to preserve them, but he wants to experiment on them. But the weak, he wanted them killed right away. Gas chamber right away. Um, he separated the strong, who were mostly men, from the weak, who were mostly sickly men, old men, women, young children. Young children. Like, I know some of you have siblings who are in LM, and probably you think, samok mo na siya, but can you just imagine the horror if you're a mom and you see that your child is so upsetting, you know. Those labeled as weak would die that day. These are actually women. I don't know if you noticed, but these are women. Their heads have been shaved because they are about to go into the gas chamber. Whew. The next picture might be a little upsetting. Oh my gosh. Oh, those are hand scratches in the gas chamber. Ah, hand scratches, darling. It's so grubby. Because when the gas would be pumped inside, you'll try to escape, and they were told to undress for a shower and then led to a chamber with fake shower heads. Um, After the doors were closed, cyanide gas or carbon dioxide poured from the shower heads or holes in the ceiling. All inside were killed in a matter of minutes. And then the bodies would be dragged and taken into the crematorium or ovens where the bodies would be burned. Oof. It's really so upsetting. The Holocaust, ah, cyanide, darling, it was cyanide. Oh my gosh, it's so upsetting. Grabe Hitler. Grabe si Hitler. It's like he ordered this. I know the men who did this are also responsible, but it was all these millions of people. Their blood is on his hands. Let's take a moment, no, to just kind of let that sink in and like let that burn inside your heads and in your hearts. If ever baya gyud this will happen again, no, we are baya subhuman because we're brown. It's always the white people who want to exterminate colored people. Pray that this will never, never happen again because we will definitely be considered subhuman. We aren't, but usually skin color, based on skin color. Yes, Jid, I hate racism. It's really not a joke. It really is not. And this is real racism. Please do not think that racism is cheap, not just because it's. But when you regard someone as lower than you just because of their race, that is really racism, Jud. Nga, ew, I don't talk to Malaysians. Mukhang ka-racist, uy. The Spanish were racist against us when they were here, but I don't think there was ever a genocide in the Philippines, Jud. It is, Calvin, and please remember that thought. How disgusting it can be, Jud. It's very disgusting. Yes, they were racist. They treated it was still racism. And a lot of Filipinos died because of that, because some Spaniards were really super abusive, but it was not genocide. Final solution to the Jewish problem? Hitler! Mm. Even in extermination camps, Jews rose up and fought against the Nazis. This is an example, no? They really still had the will to, even when you look at that, they still had the will to live. They didn't want to die. Oh my gosh, it's so upsetting. At Treblinka in August 1943 and at Sobibor in October 1843, small groups of Jews revolted. They killed guards, stormed the camp armories, stole guns and grenades, and broke out. In both uprisings, about 300 prisoners escaped. Most were killed soon after. Of those who survived, many joined up with partisan groups and continued to fight until the end of the war. Um, so there were really a lot, and you know also that there were Germans who hid Jews. Not all, let's not be racist too, okay? Let's not be racist also and say all Germans are evil, because that's not true. There were Germans who really found this to be a horrible thing, and a lot of them hid in their basements. They hid Jews, and Hitler also killed those Germans. But yeah, if you were a German and you helped a Jew, yes, like in Book Thief, exactly. Ay, it's so grabe. Ay, nako. And then, so a lot of them happen. A particular story were these two women, no? Ella Gartner and Rosa Robota. Um, late in 1944, um, prisoners at Auschwitz revolted too. Like the escapes at Treblinka and Sobibor, most were caught and killed. Young women like Ella Gartner and Rosa Robota made the Auschwitz uprising possible. Gartner smuggled gunpowder into the camp from the munitions factory where she worked. So she was in charge because it was a slave labor camp. She would steal gunpowder little by little. Um, Robota helped organize resistance in the camp. Gartner and Robota were caught and executed, however, on January 6, 1945. They were hung in public. Less than a month later, the Auschwitz was liberated. So they really fought hard. Um, yeah, okay. Particularly because these were moms, Gartner and Robota, and they were separated. There was a children's camp, a men's camp, and a women's camp. So they really wanted to escape the camp to get back to their children. So that was their motivation, no? Yeah. But they were executed. So, ay, nako. I really don't understand how Hitler killed himself. So, judging from that, you know that he did not ask for forgiveness. He did not repent. He did not go to the Lord. Why would he go to the Lord? The Lord was a Jew. He hated Jews. Diba? So there is a very, very big 98% that he is suffering really in hell. And there are levels of hell by yun. Um, it will match your sin. So I really do not know how he is being punished, dude. Because ah, Hitler, Hitler, dude, is so annoying, dude. Like more than annoying. Hitler's war on the Jews turned toward the final solutions. And you know what the final solution was, and that was really just a horrific thing. Some 6 million Jews died in these camps under Hitler. And in Nazi massacres, fewer than 4 million survived. Some escaped the horrors of death camps with help from non-Jewish people. These rescuers, at great risk to their own lives, hid Jews in their homes or helped them escape to neutral countries. Those who survived the camps were changed forever by what they had experienced. Because you know, you may not have died in the concentration camp, but a large chunk of your soul probably died, and you will never be the same because of the torture. And it's not just torture on yourself. Um, just like how you can tell that they like you can tell when someone is Mexican, di ba, love? You can tell when someone is Chinese. Jews have a very particular characteristic, like physical characteristic. Yeah. Even the face. It's very yeah, they have not all of them though. They have some of them are light skinned. You can kind of tell. I know I was in a resort in Malboal and there were Jews there, and it was so nice to see them interact with each other, and they spoke in Hebrew, and you're kind of like, I wonder how the Lord sounded, but that's what I kept thinking. Is this how the Lord sounded when He spoke? And they were speaking, and then they were all good looking. Pag yun, you're kind of like, and then we had, because we stayed at the same hotel, and they were at the lobby. We were at the lobby, and they were very friendly, so they wanted to play a card game with us. So we were like, oh yeah, let's play. And then we played a card game, and then we were like, don't ask about the Holocaust. I kept telling myself, and I was like, oh my gosh, don't do it. That was really nice, but you can kind of tell, and probably the way they spoke. And okay, now, um, Ellie Weasel, sorry, Ellie Weasel, who was 15 years old when he entered the Auschwitz. He was an Auschwitz survivor. This is what he wrote. Never shall I forget that he was 15 when he was in the Auschwitz. I shall never forget the little faces of the children whose I saw turned into wreaths of smoke beneath a silent blue sky. Never shall I forget those flames which consumed my faith forever. Never shall I forget those moments which murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams to dust. Never. Look at his trauma, oh. Yes, I'm sure Jesus had a loud voice because remember the Sermon in the Mount? He spoke to thousands of people without a microphone. So he must have had quite a voice, no? So, hey, don't speak about Jesus so casually, did. Didn't you have a sermon on do not take the name of the Lord in vain? Do not speak to him, speak about him like that, calling him bro. He's not. He's the king of this world. Don't say sorry to me, huh? You ask forgiveness from the Lord. You do not talk about him like that. He owns the world. Joke about him. You do not treat him as if he is just like anybody else. I got upset, Magaling. I was spoken to in a certain way earlier in the class. How much more God? And I'm a sinful person, but I get upset. So you think about that whenever you speak of the Lord in vain. Don't do that. Okay. So that ends our okay, it's okay. You just pray to the Lord. He's very kind. He's very holy, but he is very kind and he will always forgive. Okay? So that concludes our